Welcome for this webinar. Today we are going to talk about the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, PR pathways, right? So let's get into this topic right away. So you know who I am, right? So the purpose of this webinar is for you all to understand the different pathways that is available under Ontario Provincial Nominee Program, and we are conducting this webinar series as part of our corporate social responsibility. So we want like the majority of the Sri Lankan community and who migrated as students, workers, visitors, they are trying to get the permanent residency. So as an organization and as an individual, I will try to help you as much as I can in whatever the possible way. That's why we are conducting this free webinar. So the target of this webinar is to you guys to have the enough like the information for you to pursue your dreams and becoming a Canadian permanent resident. So the situation, the ground level situation in Canada right now, it's at his all-time low in terms of immigration. We have never ever seen this kind of rapid changes over the last decade or so. When the express entry was first introduced in 2015, then yes, we saw some changes coming, but ever since, this is the most dynamic period, if I would say. So because today, like if you listen to Mark Miller, he said the LMIA 50 points, they are planning to take it out. Flag polling might not be anymore. Then they've already said that then if already granted visas and the in the pipeline, like the already approved visas can also be cancelled in the interest of public interest. If it is in public interest, they can do so. So that's not something that we want to hear. But having said that, there are ample opportunities to get this right? So then you have come all this way from your motherland, from Sri Lanka or anywhere in the world. It's just that you have to go give this final push and put the icing on the cake. So don't be depressed. There is like the ample opportunities for you to get this done. It's just that you have to bring your A game, right? Because people like the other countries, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they all are like fighting for these limited spots. So you need to think this as a game and a competition. So you need to bring your A game to secure your spot. You have done a lot of sacrifices for your family, like for yourself. Now it's all about giving this final push. So just be focused for another 1 or 2 years, then you will be done. Then the floodgates will open. It's just that you need to identify the path. So today we are going to talk about the immigration paths available in Ontario. So if you know, like I'm not going to go into immigration level plans in detail, but if you can recall the previous immigration plans, right? So which was there from 2024 to 2026, the provincial nomination was allocated 110,000 in 2024, 120 in 2025, and same in 2026. Right? With the new plans, which was published recently, published on October 24, 2024, you see these numbers drastically dropped from 120,000 to 55,000, and again 120,000 to 55,000. So if you do the math, right, so you see there is a difference of 65,000. So there is a reduction of 65,000. We have discussed about it in our previous webinar, right? So then if you see the allocation of like the approximate allocation among the different provinces, Ontario has the highest number of allocation. So earlier, remember, it was around 110,000. So Ontario was allocated 21,500. That is roughly around 20%. So that's the highest. If you see no other province is even coming into 5 figures, right? So Ontario has 21,500. So even with the reduction, we can assume that Ontario will have higher number of invitations as opposed to any other province. That is why you need to focus on Ontario pathways. So if you see the 2023 nomination by stream, right? So this is like the 2024 numbers are not publicly available as of now because the year is still we are still in 2024, right? So let's check from the official website itself, right? So here it says, right? So just 1 second. Yeah. So right. So once we put, okay, right? So once you put 2023, right? So you'll be able to see they provided us the 2023 OINP results on March 15, 2024. So by stream, you'll be able to see the allocation. The job offer stream, foreign worker, 1,122. So let's focus on the highest number of allocations. Master's stream, 5,407. Then express entry skill trade, 3,017. Human capital priorities, nearly 5,000. So those are the high volume nomination streams, right? So you just need to understand those. So now, when it comes to Ontario nominee programs, today focus point is like if I'm able to get any one of you a nomination, then my mission is accomplished. So we need to understand the process. We need to understand the streams available. It's very important that we understand the stream. And this webinar is not something I teach you something and then I'll keep something to myself. No, I'm going to show you how you're going to do it, right? So let's start from the scratch. So the first thing, Ontario Immigration Nominee Program, they have one of the most comprehensive web pages in terms of provincial nominee programs. So it's very clear, very precise. It's absolutely like user-friendly. So then what you can do is I'm showing you how to get into the official web page. Just go to Google, type OINP. That's it, right? Once you type that, you will be directed to this page. So with this, you'll be able to find all the details that you need, right? So the first tab is choosing the right stream. That's very important. So let's click on that. So once you go into that, you will be able to see the official web page of OINP, right? So then it clearly says here, Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program uses two intake systems to manage applications. Before you can apply to the program, you must register either in expression of interest system or express entry system. So very clear, they are talking about two systems. One is expression of interest, the other one is express entry. So let's go into our PDF, like the PowerPoint. So you can clearly see that there are two streams. One is expression of interest system. The other one is express entry system. Don't worry, we will go in detail. I just want you to understand there are two streams, right? So one is expression of interest. The other one is express entry. So here, this is the official, like the screenshot taken from the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program streams, right? So you can see they are like the dividing like in terms of job offers, human capital, and business. So altogether, Ontario was supposed to have 9 streams, right? So let's go to their webpage. It's clearly mentioned here. The OINP has 9 streams you may qualify for. One might ask, okay, it says it's 9 streams, but I cannot find 9. I can only find 8. That is because the entrepreneur stream. So let's go to our the Google and just find the information there, right there. So we'll come here. Then we go to the program update page where you find all the updates. Here you see on November 4th, 2024, entrepreneur stream is closing. So which they post back in I think the December last year. Yeah, December 4th, 2023, right? They posted. Now they have said, we are implementing amendments to the program to wind down and close the stream. So people ask me, I have no option. What if I start a business in Ontario? Entrepreneur stream is no more. So that's done. It's like they have closed the stream. So now that leaves us with only 8 streams, right? So 3 of them are job offer based. The other one is the human capital streams. So let's go into them one by one. So a lot of questions people ask me, like some people come to me and say, look, I got an invitation under the confirmation of nomination for OINP. How can I update my express entry profile? Even like the one, like just not longer than 5 days ago, one client called me and said his lawyer said that he can update the employer job offer stream in express entry. That's wrong. All job offer stream nominations are processed under expression of interest. So you cannot apply under express entry. The letter is clearly stated. So I'm giving you a few examples. This one, very recent one. One of our clients, December 5th, they got the invitation under employer job offer stream international students, right? It's clearly mentioned here. The list letter confirms that you have been nominated for OINP please note this nomination is not valid for express entry. It's clearly mentioned. So it is not express entry. It's expression of interest system. So similar in the in-demand skills, you can see this is also one of our clients, December 6th, they got the confirmation of nomination. So the in-demand skills, right? And it's a tier 4-1 quality control team member, 94219. Again, you can see this letter confirms that you have been nominated for OINP. Please note this nomination is not valid for express entry. So the first dilemma that we have to clear is some programs are under express entry, some are under not. So now let's see which are under expression of interest system. So it's very clear out of 8 streams, we have 5 streams which are only expression of interest system. So if you get an invitation under any of these, you cannot take that 600 points into express entry. You have to go and apply under non-express entry system. It's basically the same thing, right? So the only difference is, so the express entry is 6 months, normal processing time. Non-express entry is around 12 months. So it's just 6 months. All in all, you wouldn't mind as long as you get the PR, right? So it's just a matter of time. If you get an invitation under expression of interest system, that means half of the battle is won. It's just that you have to submit documents correctly, then you will get your PR for sure. That is guaranteed, right? So because once you get the nomination, that means you are out of the rat race. You are out of the scoring factors. That means you just have to provide the documents in the appropriate manner. So then your application will definitely be approved, right? So now let's dig into these. So out of which the expression of interest system, 3 programs can be identified under job offer streams. The other 2 are the master's and the PhD. So I'm going to cover all of these in detail. So then you will have enough information to pursue your dream and secure your permanent residence under OINP. Right. So the first one we are going to start with is the employer job offer foreign worker stream. Right. So let's go to the official website itself. Right. So then just one second. Right. So for some reason, this link is not working. No issues. So what we will do is, again, you go to OINP, just go to choosing right stream. It's good because you'll be able to learn how to go into and navigate to these streams, right? So here you go, Ontario Nominee Program streams. You come to the first one, employer job offer foreign worker stream, right? This one is, as the word suggests, is for you need to have a job offer. And on top of that, it is mentioned foreign worker stream, right? So let's read this. The employer job offer foreign worker stream gives foreign workers with a job offer in a skilled occupation the opportunity to apply for permanent and live and work in Ontario. So the keywords here, skilled, that means here it is mentioned tier 0, 1, 2, 3. The tier 4, 5 is not covered under this. It will be covered under in demands, which we will listen with very shortly. But for skilled worker, you need to have a tier job in 0, 1, 2, 3. And again, first register OINP expression of interest system. So that means it's not about the express entry. It's just that you have to register OINP expression of interest system. First, you go there and create an account and create expression of interest. Then you will be in the pool. Then if your score meet the cutoff score, then you will be send an expression of interest, right? So then here, if you see now the requirements, let's see the requirements one by one. First one, to qualify under the employer job offer for you must have a job offer in Ontario from an employer that meets following requirements. So the job offer needs to be from an Ontario employer, right? So when they say Ontario, it can be anywhere in Ontario, absolutely anywhere, GTA, outside GTA, it doesn't matter, right? Then when it comes to the foreign worker stream, you can see here they have clearly mentioned self-employed professionals, including physicians, are not eligible. So some people come to me and say, I'm a dancer, I'm a singer, I have my business, I have my own business. Can I apply under employer job offer stream? No, you cannot. You cannot, because self-employed professionals are not eligible under this. In in-demand skills, you will be able to see that the self-employed employees are eligible, but under this, you are not. So first thing what you have to do is the first requirement is you need to have full-time permanent. Full-time permanent. So that means at least 30 hours without without having a you need to with the ending date, right? So you should not be a contract. It has to be full-time and permanent, right? So then we talked about it. It's about the you need to have a skill job, tier 0, 1, 2, 3. So the two requirements, full-time permanent, and it needs to be a skill job. Then the other requirement, median wage level. The median wage level must meet or be higher than, right? So when it comes to international student stream, you will see they are talking about the low wage. Now here they are talking about the median wage. So a lot of people come to me and ask, okay, how do I know the median wage, right? So easiest way to find that out, click on this link, right? It will direct you to the job bank. Then you have to type the job title. Let's say you're an accountant. So you just type accountant and you will be able to get this NOC. Just press search, right? Then here, just 1 second, right? So we'll go back, right? So here it says the job offer, the pay of the job offered must meet or be higher than the median wage level for that occupation in the specific region of Ontario where you will be working, right? So they have divided into regions. So in the specific region of working, so you come to Ontario, right? So all the regions are mentioned here. If you're in Toronto region, you have to meet 41.03. If you're in Ottawa, 41.03. If you're in London, 34.62, right? In some occupations, these regional wages are not available. So the OINP website, as I mentioned, it's very clear. They have provided all the information. They say to find, you can do that, right? Then here it says the if the wage of the employment region where the applicant will work or report to work is not available, let's say it is not available, then you have to rely on Ontario wage. Here you can see that for the province wise, they have provided a wage. So Ontario median wage for an accountant is $40.87. So it's very clear. It has to be above the median wage, right? Not the low wage, median wage. It has to at least meet or be above, right? So then we'll go back. That's the median wage requirement. So a lot of people come to me and they have this question, how they calculate this number of hours and hourly wage, right? So the hourly wage is calculated in the official website itself. They have provided the calculation, right? Here they have the steps to do it, right? These are the steps. If you're paid an annual salary, your hourly wage can be calculated as follows. Deduct any bonuses and other discretionary benefits from the annual salary. Divide the remaining by 52 weeks. That is because we have 52 weeks per year. Then divide the number of hours. Divide the answer by number of hours that you work per week. Then you will get the hourly wage. So let's take an example so you will understand it better. So let's say annual salary is 65,000 and you have a bonus of 5,000 and number of hours per week is 40, right? So first what you have to do, deduct the bonus from the annual salary. So that will take you to $60, $60,000 per year. Then you deduct that so divide that by 52 weeks. That is because we have 52 weeks a year. So then you will get $1,153.84 per week. But we are talking about the hourly wage, right? So which is very important because in the scoring factors, the hourly wage will play a role, which we will discuss very shortly, right? Then what you have to do is you have to deduct the per week salary by number of hours you work, right? If you're working 30 hours, you have to divide by 30 hours. If you're working 35 hours, you have to divide by 35. 37.5, you have to divide by 37.5. So I'm pretty sure that you understand this concept. It's very, very simple, but sometimes people they overthink this concept. It's a very simple concept, right? Then this is another very important point. Position is urgently necessary to employer's business, right? The position offers must be urgently necessary to employer's business. So it should be within the nature of the business, right? So it's not that difficult to prove. If it is within the nature of the scope of the business, you should be fine. Then the work should be based in Ontario. Obviously, as we discussed, it's an Ontario nominee program, so work should be in Ontario. So again, how to do it? They are mentioned. You must have received an invitation to apply within the deadline identified. So first, you have to create an expression of interest, be in the pool, get an invitation, and then apply. Then the very important aspect, work experience or legally required to license. Legally required license or other authorization. So that means for international student streams, sometimes, like not sometimes, I mean, definitely you would not need experience. But for foreign worker, 2 years is a must, right? So there are exceptions, right? But the first exception is, if your job offer from an occupation that requires mandatory license or other authorization under Ontario law, you must hold a valid license and authorization from the appropriate regulatory body in Ontario. For an instance, let's say you're an electrician, you're a what do you call this, plumber, then you would need license, right? So if you need, if you are in an occupation that would need license and you have that license, then you are exempted from the two years requirement. But obviously, to get the 2 years, you would like to get the license, you would need to have work experience under your belt. But as for this program itself, that you are exempted from it. If not, if your job offer is not from an occupation that requires mandatory license or other authorization in Ontario, you must demonstrate work experience in the same occupation as the NOC code of your job offer, right? So even though you have experience in a higher NOC code, that's not going to work. For an instance, I heard like I mean, day in, day out, we speak with individuals, so they have different scenarios. So one client came to me, and she said that her job NOC code is 1 to 200, which is the accounting technician and bookkeeping, but her experience is as an accountant, right? So it's a higher, so her experience is in a higher NOC, which is in the skill category 1, but the NOC code in 2. That doesn't matter. As long as if it is not in the exact NOC code, then that experience will not be counted, because they have clearly mentioned you must demonstrate work experience in the same occupation as the NOC code of your job offer. It has to be the same one, right? Then what they are mentioned, to meet the work experience requirement, you must have at least 2 years cumulative paid full-time work experience in the same occupation as your job offer, right? So it has to be 2 years cumulative. So what does this mean? So that means it need not to be continuous, right? You need to have 1.5 years experience in accounting at Haley's, and then another 1 year at let's say Abans as an accountant. Same NOC code, different organization, that doesn't matter. As long as it's within the same NOC code, you're good. If they have not, remember in Ontario, when it comes to work experience, there are 2 keywords. First is continuous employment. The other one is the cumulative experience. That means the aggregate. Continuous means you have to be in one go. But when they use that you can combine it, then you can combine it. So here they use the word cumulative paid experience, so it's not continuous. Remember, once we go into the different streams, you will find the word continuous. Just note down that as long as it says cumulative, it need not to be continuous. There can be gaps, right? Here it's clearly mentioned. The cumulative means that the work you have done must add up to 2 years. It does not have to be 2 years of continuous work. So that clears the doubt right there. It can be from 2 different organizations, as long as it's within the same NOC code. Another important point, you must have gained this experience within the 5 years prior to the date of submitting of your application. Very important point. See, submitting your application, so not the date that you receive the invitation to apply, right? If your work experience is gained in Canada, you must have been legally living and working in Canada, obviously. So you cannot count the legal experience, right? So then so remember, it has to be within 5 years. Sorry, within 5 years. Within 5 years, from the date of your submitting of your application. For an instance, today you go to expression of interest system, create a expression of interest, and you get an invitation. Then you submit documents. Then at the time of the submission, this should be valid, right? It's not at the time of the invitation. It's very important, right? So there they have mentioned you can count the part-time work experience as well. Here, it's clearly mentioned that you can count the part-time work experience as well. So some people come to me, they ask like, okay, I have 1 year of experience in Sri Lanka, 1 year of experience in Canada. That's totally fine. As long as you are legally authorized to work in Canada, you can combine those two. That's totally fine. So let's say you are doing 2 part-time jobs. That's totally fine too. We are not talking about continuous. We are talking about cumulative work experience. So we can combine whatever the way. Sri Lankan experience with Canadian, 2 different organizations, full-time, part-time. Everything is covered under this. So you need not to worry. So then right. So here when it comes to valid license or other authorization, if you need a license, then you would need to demonstrate that to OINP government. Obviously, in all these programs, you have to demonstrate that you have intention to live in Ontario, right? So intention to live in Ontario is an absolute must. So you have to write a letter once you get an invitation demonstrating why. So it's very easy to write. If you have done your studies and work here, it's very easy to write. It's not like you are trying to convince an immigration officer after staying in Ontario, you're going to Manitoba and trying to convince them. That's not the case, because statistically it is proven that the high population of immigrants live in Ontario. Because like for an instance, let's say Sri Lanka, we have the highest number of Sri Lankan community, highest number of Sri Lankan grocery stores, highest number of Sri Lankan cultural activities. So no reason for us to live elsewhere, right? They have good education, good healthcare system. So it's very easy to prove that you want to live in Ontario, but still you have to prove it, right? So if you're applying from within Canada, you must have legal status, obviously, right? So if you're applying and they count the if you, let's say now, if you do not have the legal status, the maintained status is also covered. So let's read this. If you're applying from within Canada, you must have legal status, right? Visitor record, study permit, work permit at the time you apply, and should maintain that status until the nomination is there. You may apply if you are in maintained status. So maintained status is where, let's say your study permit or work permit is expiring in today, like in 3 days time. You apply now, you get again. So not study permit. The study permit can be it's applicable for study permit as well, but here we are talking about the work permit. No? So let's say in 3 days your work permit is expiring. So if you apply now, you get a letter stating that WPEXT, work permit extension letter. So until the decision is made on your application, you are in maintained status. So if you're in maintained status, still you can apply, right? Then so the job of a stream, the fascinating part is the employer also have requirements. It's not only about you are meeting requirements. Employer also need to meet requirements. So let's see what are those. First one, have been active business for at least 3 years. Very important. So you have to be in business at least 3 years prior to submitting of your application, right? Then have business premises in Ontario where you will work. So you will need a business premises. Have no outstanding orders. Yes, obviously under Employment Standard Act, if you have outstanding orders, you will not be able to support an employee, right? Then demonstrate that enough effort was made to recruit a Canadian citizen or permanent resident prior to offering a position to you, right? So that's a very important point. So they have to demonstrate. So if they have done advertising, if they have done the recruitment process, then they can prove that, right? Then there are revenue requirements. Revenue requirements, it's very simple. If work location is in GTA, GTA means City of Toronto, Durham region, Halton, York and Peel, right? The revenue requirement is 1 million per year, right? So that means annual income of your employer should be 1 million. If it is outside GTA, 500,000, 500,000. Very simple. Inside GTA, 1 million. Outside GTA, 500,000, right? Then you need to have full-time employees, right? So then when they are allocating this, right? So they are again going by whether your work location in GTA or outside GTA. Remember, if in GTA, if it is in GTA, you need at least 5 Canadian citizens or permanent residents working. If it is outside GTA, you need at least 3. So they are not talking about temporary workers. there has to be like the employer needs to demonstrate they have at least 5 Canadian citizen or permanent residents. If it is inside GTA, at least 3. If it is outside GTA, right? So then reasonable recruitment efforts. This is very important that the employer need to demonstrate that they have taken the reasonable recruitment efforts. So here, if you can see here, there are exceptions to this. Let's read this very carefully. Employers must demonstrate that the reasonable efforts were made to recruit a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident prior to offering this position to the applicant. Underline the word unless the applicant is already has a valid work permit to work in Ontario, or they have an LMIA. Yeah, if they have an LMIA, then reasonably they have demonstrated the efforts to recruit, right? So that's not an issue at all. So, but if you have a work permit, then you don't have to prove that, because like here it is covered, the applicant already has a valid work permit in Ontario, right? So then the other thing that when it comes to the OINP, it's like sometimes people think, is it similar to LMIA efforts? No, LMIA, the threshold is high, but under this you have to provide the word reasonable. If you have done the advertising and if you have done the recruitment efforts, that is reasonable. You need not to prove beyond like reasonable doubt that there is no Canadian citizen or permanent resident, at least on balance of probabilities, right? So for a particular job, you need not to prove to a level of LMIA. That's a wrong concept, right? So it's 2 different standards. So the LMIA standard is high, the OINP standard is slightly low. But here they mention, please note that OINP does not consider domestic recruitment efforts carried out by an immigration representative to be reasonable. This is because of the conflict of interest. They should have mentioned that somewhere. Yeah, it's clearly mentioned here. In such situations, the conflict of interest exists. So if I take your profile and if I act on behalf of your employer, there is a conflict of interest right there, right? Because I want you to get the job. And if I'm representing the employer, I will reject all other applications. So then the conflict of interest right there, right? So those efforts will not be considered. Then the most important one, people come to me and ask, okay, what is this employer form? Employer form is the form that the employer needs to fill to support your application, right? So it's very simple. You just click here, right? Application for approval of employment position. So once you click this, you'll be taken into this web page. Just download the English one, French if it is applicable. Then fill that, ask your employer to fill that and sign it. Then that's it, right? So then another $1 million question. Okay, my employer is willing to provide me the employer form, but what other documents do I need? Right. The real answer is right here. Just go to this employer checklist, right? So as I said, this web page is one of the most comprehensive web pages I've ever seen in Canadian history, immigration history. So you can find all these details. First one, right? If you're an employer, so here it says employer form, and you need a job offer signed by you and the applicant. So both parties need to sign. I think 3 months ago, I have one of my clients, referred another person whose application was rejected simply because the applicant has not signed the application. Ontario is very critical on these mistakes. If the applicant, like sometimes when they send over after the verbal communication, when they send through an email, you don't sign it, right? But before submitting to OINP, ensure that both parties sign that document. Very critical. If it is not, game over. They will reject it. They cannot accept it because they use the system very, very carefully. So they have clearly provided the information. If you don't follow the instructions, then that's it. There is no room for you to argue because you have not followed the instructions. So the employer form, we talked about it. So these are the requirements in job offer. Very, very important. The job offer must be less than 6 months old. Don't worry, there is an exception for this. But if you're taking a new job offer, it should be less than 6 months old. Printed on a business letterhead shows that your business address, telephone, fax number, email. Very important. Identify the responsible person, officer, supervisor, and include their signatures. So this person should be the one who's finding the employer form as well, or else you have to identify his relationship in the employer form, right? Be stamped with a business corporate seal. If your business does not have a corporate seal, don't worry, that's fine because they are mentioned if applicable. Then they include following information: job title, knock code, wage of the position, duties, responsibilities, number of hours per week, number of days or weeks of vacation, workplace location, start date, indication that, right? This is very important. Indication that the job offer being made is for full-time position for an indeterminate duration. So no end date. Remember, I told you full-time, permanent. So no end date, right? Confirmation that the terms and the conditions of the job offer are effective as of the date of the nomination, if the nominee is already working. So this, like, you can ask your employer to include this clause, right? So then this first one, can you remember? It says be less than 6 months old. So you come here, there is an exception for that. B, if the applicant is currently working for you in the same position as the job offer, they cannot submit the original job offer signed by you. And the applicant, you must also give an applicant letter confirming that they are still employed. So if it is more than 6 months old, you can just provide a letter with the required details and still go with that. Then the other question. So the other documents, copy of the job advertisement, because we have to demonstrate the duties, right? If applicable, you have to provide the copy of the job advertisement and the recruitment efforts. Then the LMIA, if there is one, right? Then copy of the application, applicable section in your collective agreement and outline wages, right? So if the wage of the position offered the applicant does not meet the lower median wage, but so remember for the wage requirement. So if we go back real quick. So if the wage requirement, so let's say you cannot meet the median wage requirement, still you will be able to apply, right? So under, if they have like what do you call this, the union agreement, right? So then so here you have to prove that agreement, right? So if we are going through that route, right? So okay, right, right. Okay, let's come here. Okay. Then the additional documents. So these are the additional documents. So sometimes people ask, okay, my employer is willing to support me, but he's worried that they might request the tax document, personal information, all the confidential information. He's worried. So to answer that, Ontario government can request, but in most of the cases they don't. But if they wish to, they can. So you have to inform your employer. It is only if they wish to. So let's say it's a new company and they cannot identify whether they are making 500,000 or 1 million, then they would ask for financial statements. Otherwise, they will not ask. So you don't have to worry if they don't ask. The requirement is the job offer, and if currently working, another letter stating that you are working, and the employer form. You don't have to provide the employer financial records. You don't have to, because you don't have access to. But in Ontario government, if they wish to, they can request, right? So it's a very fine line between, we cannot say the employer, no, you don't have to, but disclose it. If the OINP requests, you have to disclose it. If they don't, you don't have to. Very simple, right? So let's see the differences, like here, right? So when it comes to OINP, right, the pay of the job offer must be higher, and so the key facts, right? So the key features, the pay of the job offer must meet or be higher than the median wage level. The work experience, at least 2 years within last 5 years in the same occupation. Reasonable recruitment efforts, we talked about it, right? So then and if you have a work permit in Ontario, you don't have to worry about it. And let me put this here, right? The employer has a positive LMIA, definitely you don't have to, right? Now, so the most important fact that you are worry here is it's a score-based system, right? So it's a score-based system. So the score will play a role. It's like similar to CRS, right? So you will be put into a pool, and if you have the score, then you will be invited. So the scoring factors they have identified in each and every stream where it is applicable, right? Here under OINP foreign worker, they are giving points to knock tier category. So what is this knock tier category? So let me help you to find that as well. So go to Google, right? Just type find my NOC, right? So just then you'll be directed to this page, right? Then you type your like the no code. So let's say again, you're an accountant, right? Right? So then here it's clearly mentioned the tier category is 1. But if you see the scoring here, they are not talking about here the first one is tier category, so it's number 1, so you will be given 10 points. But then they are talking about the occupational category. So the occupational category is not the tier. It's actually the first digit of your no code. If you are in medical, your NOC code will be 3. Sorry, occupational category will be 3. And if you are in engineering side of things, your occupational category will be in 2, right? So likewise, they have allocated points, right? So the first one is the tier. That is the second digit of your NOC code, right? Then the occupational category is the first digit of your NOC code. So this is where the next one is. This is where your job offer the wage comes into play, right? If it is less than 20 per hour, you won't get points. And if it is 40 points, $40 per hour, you will get the maximum, right? So this is then if you have a valid work permit, you will get 10 points. If you're working for the employer currently for 6 months or more, you will get 3 points, if not 0 points. Then based on the notice of assessment issued by the CRA, if it is more than 40,000, you will get 3 points. This is very important. Remember the words based on notice of assessment. Even if you have earned more than 40,000 this year, you cannot claim for this year unless you have filed taxes. If you have made 40,000, you can claim those points next year because based on the notice of assessment. So once you file taxes, only you will get this, right? Then the language, CLB 9, 10 points, 8, 6 points. Likewise, the points will be allocated for language. Then the most important one is here. If the regional immigration, the location of the job. So based on your job location, you will be given points. If it is in Northern Ontario, 10 points. And outside GTA and outside Northern Ontario, 8 points. Inside GTA, 3 points. Toronto, 0 points. So based on the work location, you will be allocated points, right? So then let's see few draws that took place this year, right? So to understand okay, 1 second, right? So again, it's like the working will type foreign worker, right? So October 8, right? So the foreign worker, skilled trade and other priority occupations, they had a draw, right? So this cutoff score was 48. It's a very achievable score, right? If you have based on the scoring factors, if you can get into 48, right? So they invited here the skilled trade and other priority occupations. So these were the skilled trade that they identified, right? So it includes a lot of skilled trades, tool and die makers, iron workers, plumbers, carpenters, cabinet makers, you name it. So almost all the skilled workers are included in this draw, right? Those tile setters, concrete finishers, right? So the other priority occupations, again, they have identified, but the score was 52, right? So then you'll be able to see like it included accountants, human resource professionals, financial managers, payroll administrators. So how to find this is, again, I'll show you, right? So you can go like check them, go to OINP, right? Just type review program updates, Control F, just type the name, the keyword of the program that you're looking for, foreign. Once you type that, foreign worker, you will get all these rows. So then you put Control F, then you go down, October 8 draw. Then we see another draw on September 10th. So likewise, you will be able to find all these information. So here, this one is for health and other priority occupations. So remember, they are based, like providing these invitations based on the categories. So the health occupation, you only need 50, right? But the other priorities, you required 54. So likewise, in the Ontario program page, you'll be find out all these draws. So the next key, the stream that we're going to talk about is OINP International Student Stream, which I think is one of the main programs that you are interested in, right? So the OINP International Student Stream, I'm not going to talk about the basics that we discussed, right? Right. So kindly mute yourself. So, right. Right. So again, it has to be full-time permanent and it has to be a skilled occupation. Remember the keyword here, low wage level. So you need not to meet the median wage here. You only need to meet the low wage level. So let's take the same example here. We talked about an accountant previously, right? So then accountant, then we go to Ontario. So checked it again. Yeah. So the median wage is $40.87. You can see here median wage, right? But when it comes to low wage, it's $24.85. If your wage is below than the median wage, still you can apply if you apply under international student stream. Because let's read this. The pay of the job offer must meet or be higher than the low wage level. Remember, it's low wage level, so you need not to worry about it as long as it's higher than the low wage level. And if you are an international student in Ontario, I mean, if you have a job offer in Ontario and I will speak about it, whether you need to be in Ontario college graduate to apply for this. No, you don't have to. You can be in an eligible school in any other province, still apply for this if you are able to find a job offer in Ontario. That's the good part about this program. I'll show you that, right? So then again, they have provided the calculation, which we have done, position, right? So then the education, it's very important. Right. So then the education, it's very important. You must prove that you have obtained one of the following eligible credentials. So you have to prove at least either you have an undergraduate diploma, degree or diploma, graduate degree or diploma, college graduate certificate, or university graduate certificate from an eligible Canadian institution. So these two are from Canadian institution and these two are from Ontario institutions. So there is a clear difference between that. So let's see the Canadian institutions, it's not confined to Ontario. So they have listed all the eligible Ontario institutions. So if your institution is listed here, you can apply for this. And the universities they have listed here, and the universities that offer graduate certificate, right? So indigenous institutes are there. And this is the key part, eligible Canadian institutions. So still you can apply for OINP if your occupation, sorry, if your college is in the eligible list, even though if it is outside Ontario. Part about this. So if you are in Alberta, if you are studying in Bow Valley College, yeah, you will be invited. So if you are in University of Alberta, still you will be invited. Here in British Columbia, if you find a job offer here and studied at Douglas College in British Columbia, no issues, right? But in the scoring factors, right? So there will be points allocation. You will not get points for that because points are given for Ontario colleges, right? So similar, you can check all these provinces. You'll be able to find all these provinces, right? So let's go up and right. Okay. Again, the valid license and authorization, we talked about it. Intention to live in Ontario, we talked about it. Then the key factor here, right? Application period. So you must submit your application within 2 years of completing the requirements necessary to obtain your degree, diploma, certificate. So as soon as you get the letter of completion and transcript, your 2 years will start running. And remember that you need to 2 years will be at must be within 2 years at the time of the submission of the application, not the invitation. So they have given a very easy example so you would understand. This means that the date on your educational credential must be within 2 years of OINP application. So if you get your letter of completion today on 2024 December 17, you have to submit the OINP application within 2 years. So by December 17, 2026, you have to apply. Otherwise, you will not be eligible. It's very simple. Again, the employer requirements are there. Right, so you see a clear difference here, right? So if you see compare this, they do not have to demonstrate that they have taken reasonable efforts to recruit. Can you see that? That's not a requirement here. So let's see the key features. Low wage, It's very important. And you do not need work experience. Remember, for foreign worker, you needed 2 years. But for international students, if you're a fresh graduate, that's fine. They're not talking about experience. Go to the web page and type the word work experience. It's not there, right? So you need not to have work experience. Low wage, education must have the qualified credential. Application period, 2 years. Reasonable recruitment efforts, you don't have to. Again, you can check these draws, right? So we can come here. So again, the key line here, you go there, type student, or else we will type international student. Right? So you will be able to see the draws. Here, this one, September 10th, score was 67 for health occupations. Right? So likewise, you'll be able to see these draws, right? So this one is health and other priority occupation, July 16th. I want to show this. Yes, health is obviously there. Then the other priority occupation, this draw was a very, it came out of the blue, right? So it's always better to have a profile up and running. People were not expecting it to come into other priority occupation with a score of 77. A lot of people got the invitation if they are like the, if they have created the expression of interest. So remember these, like the other priority occupation covered like the major basic occupations. So for an instance, if you're an accounting technician and bookkeeper, it's covered. Payroll administrator, it's covered. Human resource manager, it's covered. Accountants, it's covered. Human resource professional, executive assistant, civil engineers, purchasing managers, you name it. So they have expanded their, like the other priority occupations to cover a variety of occupations. So that's where your opportunity lies. So if you are like hesitating whether I should create or not, go ahead and do it. If you because you don't know when we will get an invitation. So they from time to time they can decide their other priority occupation. So always just keep an eye on the draws and create an expression of interest. Then the next the final one in the job offer stream we are going to talk about, in-demand skills stream. So again, we'll go to our website, just go back, right, in-demand skill stream. So the OINP in-demand skill stream, this is very specific stream for in-demand skills. Today I got an invitation, question, like there were a couple of questions said, I think 10 to 12. I have based my webinar based on those questions. One person asked me the question, how can I get an invitation under the NOC 33109 under in-demand skills? No, you cannot do that. In in-demand skills, they have identified certain occupations. So if you see the in-demand skill, the good part about in-demand skills is for the tier 4 and 5, right? So if you come down and see the job offer requirements is the same, again, you need full-time and permanent. This one, check. Tier 4 and 5, based on tier 4 and 5. So they are not talking about highly skilled occupations. They are talking about in-demand occupations. So your opportunity lies right there, right? So your opportunity is there, right there. So you need not to have a skilled job. You can still be qualified under the unskilled job, right? So if your job is inside or outside Greater Ontario, then you can still apply under home support workers, meat cutters, construction trades. So all these unskilled jobs, you just need to demonstrate work experience in these, then you will get an invitation. That is one of the easiest ways to get the OINP nomination. So I'll show you the draws and I'll show you the scores, right? So this one, if it is outside on the GTA, then you can find jobs in any of these. There are ample opportunities. The fish and like the seafood plant workers, woodworking machine operators, right? So there are ample opportunities. So you just have to get a job in one of these and meet the work experience, right? So we'll come into that very shortly, right? Then the other thing, when it comes to median wage, again, it has to be higher than or be higher than the median wage, not the low wage. In demand skill, higher than the median wage. Again, you have to prove that the position is urgently necessary and the work based in Ontario, obviously. Then the key part here, work experience. you must have at least 9 months cumulative work experience in the same occupation. So here the requirement is 9 months. So if we summarize, foreign worker, 2 years. International student, no experience. In demand, 9 months. And both foreign work and in demand has to be in the same occupation of your job offer. So you can again you can add your work experience you have in one organization 4, the other one is 5. So it still can be done. Here it clearly states the cumulative means that the work you have done must add up to 9 months. It does not have to be 9 months continuous work, right? Again, if your job required valid license, you would need this. Then the language here, the very important part is we'll scroll down to the scoring factors very shortly. But the language, you will see you need to only have CLB4 or higher, and you will not be allocated points based on your language. That's the good part about it. If you are finding it difficult to go through IELTS CELPIP, this is your way out, because you only need CLB4. Getting CLP4 is not an, even if you don't know the alphabet, still you can prepare yourself within a 6 to 9 months, still like achieve CLB4. That can be done. We are not talking about CLB 9, 8, 10. No, CLB 4, that can be done. So going to like the most common, like if London people joining from London would know Maple Lodge, they have these meat cutter jobs. So one of my clients did that. They had absolutely no clue. They came to us. They were from London. So I directed them to the Maple Lodge, and luckily he got an invitation. So what he did was he went there, started working for 9 months, took those 9 months, prepared for English test to get this CLB4, because that the Maple Lodge, they do understand that the requirement and their salary was within the range. So he got an invitation. So, I mean, it's just, you have to identify like what is right for you, right? If your English is not good, that's totally fine. That's not the end of the world. It's just that you have to identify the right program and nail it, right? So then education, then you must have a Canadian secondary high school diploma or credential or equivalent to another country. So you will not be assessed on the language or education. If you go to the scoring factors, you will not be given points here for your language or education, right? So even if you have masters, you'll get the same points. If you have a bachelor's, it doesn't matter. So it's just that you have to have CLB4 and the education requirement, the Canadian secondary school or equivalent, right? So then intention to live in Ontario, obviously. Then if you're applying from within Canada, you must have legal status at the time you apply. So again, it's a basic rule. General requirements, the revenue requirements will be the same. Work location will be the same, number of employees. So the scoring factor is very important one here. So they are not giving based on the tier here. It's no occupational category. So it's just like the based on the first digit of your NOC. Then the job of a wage, whether you have a work permit, whether you have worked for the employer, and whether you have 40,000, and based on the region. Remember, education is not being accounted, language is not being accounted. So the mere fact that you don't have a good language score will not hamper you from securing the golden opportunity under this. Even if you have only Canadian secondary diploma equivalent, that's fine. That's all you need. Even if you're not going to compete with somebody who has a master's, because the points are not allocated for it. So if you're lagging in the education and language, this stream is the best option for you. So again, we can see the key features limited to eligible occupations. As you see, the in-demand skills. Then the median wage we have to meet, 9 months work experience. And here we can use the self-employment via independently verifiable employment documentation, right? So the language, remember, so the no points allocated, but CLB4 is required. Again, education, no points allocated, but Canadian secondary credential is required. So if we see the latest draws here, right? So again, we'll go to the nominee page, right? And okay, right there. Okay, the keyword. What is the keyword here? In demand. Just type that and you'll be able to see the draws. Right? So general occupation invited, 35 or above. So we'll go up, right? So we'll come from up, right? In demand. Okay. So this one, general occupation, September 10th, 34, which is the latest draw, right? If you are like in the in-demand skill, you just need 34, which is not a difficult task if your employer is supporting you. So likewise, you'll be able to see the draws. So then the next one is the OINP Master's Graduate Stream. So I'm not going to go in detail into master's and PhD streams. So I'm going to talk about the key features, right? It is restricted to Ontario graduates, right? So if you see the master's graduate stream, it's restricted to Ontario graduates. So that's the key point here. So you will have an upper hand when it comes to the master's graduate. It is restricted to Ontario. So that's the best part about it, right? So here. The master's graduate stream gives international graduates with an Ontario master's. So not a Canadian credential. So it's restricted to Ontario graduates. Then work experience, no prior work experience required. A language, points allocated, and CLB7 is required. Residency in Ontario, that is very important. You must have legally lived in Ontario for at least 1 year in the past 2 years before you apply again. It can be cumulative, need not to be continuous. Then you have to demonstrate funds. As soon as you come out of the job offer streams, the fund requirement will come into play. The job offer streams, you don't have to approve the fund requirement. But as soon as you come out of that, you will be required to show funds. So similar, you have to be like living in Ontario at the time you apply. You must either living in Ontario with the legal status or living outside Canada. So that means you cannot stay in British Columbia and apply for master's graduate stream. That cannot be done. You can go to Sri Lanka and apply, but you cannot stay in any other province other than Ontario if you're living in Canada. But if you want to stay outside, you can do that. Then again, it's a 2-year requirement is there, and you do not need a job offer. Similar, you can see the draws again. Just go to our nominee page update page, keyword masters, type, right? So the most recent one, September 17, the score was 53. So if you're able to fulfill those requirements, just you need 53 points, then you will be invited, right? So the masters and the PhD, they run the draws simultaneously. You see masters and PhD graduate streams, right? Then the PhD, the key features, again, restricted to Ontario graduates. You don't need the work experience. And the language, points allocated but not identified as a requirement. So it's not a must. You must have legally lived in Ontario within last 2 years, at least 1 year. Settlement funds, still a requirement, right? So the residency at the time of the application for PhD is not a requirement. Remember, the master's stream, it was a requirement. But for PhD, you don't have to. Again, the application period will be 2 years and the job offer not required. So these are the draws. So these are the then remember all these 5 that we talked about: foreign worker job offer, international student job offer, in-demand skill job offer, masters, and the PhD are operated outside express entry. It's based on the expression of interest system. I hope you're clear on that. So there is no confusion. There shouldn't be any confusion whatsoever. Those 5 streams outside express entry. These, what we're going to talk right now, these 3 streams is based on express entry. So you do not have to, like the last week also, one of my good friends come to me and ask, like, how do I create an French speaking one in expression of interest system? That you're going to do that. It's not available. It's only operated through express entry. These 3 is like in my opinion, is the best provincial nominee programs running, because because of the draw volume and the number of invitations and the scores. I'll show you, I'll prove that very easily, right? So let's go into these, right? So the first one, French speaking skilled worker stream. So let's go to the official website. So let's find the information, right? So here you can see all these 3 skilled human capital priorities, skilled trades, French speaking, operated under express entry system. So let's start with the French speaking skilled workers. So the first one, the Ontario Express Entry French speaking skilled worker is an immigration stream under the Ontario OINP. So let's go to the requirement. You can demonstrate the work experience in either as a federal skilled worker or as a Canadian experience class. If you are doing under federal skilled worker, you need at least 1 year. Remember the word here, continuous. So not the cumulative work experience. So that means continuous means it has to be continuous, right? So and again, so it has to be in tier 1, 2, 3. 1 year of work experience is the minimum. Obtain within last 5 years, submitting your application for YNP. And then in the same occupation as you identified in your express entry profile. So the primary occupation, remember when you create the express entry profile, they would ask for primary occupation. So you need to have 1 year of work experience, continuous work experience in the express entry profile if you do not have Canadian experience. So if you're relying on federal skilled worker, let's say you have 1 year of experience in Sri Lanka, then you can still apply under this. Then when it comes to Canadian experience, have at least 1 year cumulative paid work experience. Remember the difference. The foreign worker, continuous. Canadian, cumulative. So you can combine. We discussed about it previously. So then this has to be obtained within last 3 years, right? So first one was last 5, this one last 3, and you have to stay like you are legally have the status to work in Canada while gaining this experience. Right. So the education, right? You must have Canadian bachelor's, master's, or PhD degree, or it's equivalent to another country. However, they have changed the requirement. If you are like the nurses are not required to demonstrate that they meet the education requirement. If they meet both of the following, if they are registered by the College of Nurses of Ontario, or if their NOC comes under this, they don't have to have a bachelor's, master's, or PhD. If not, you need to have minimum of bachelor's. Right. Then when it comes to language, in the Canadian language, English, you need CLB 6. French, you need CLB 7. So like people might think, okay, why French is high? This is the French language category. So you need to have the French language. So the French speaking skilled worker will require CLB 7, right? So remember English 6, French 7. Then again, settlement fund needs to be demonstrated. As I said, if you're not in the job offer stream, settlement funds will be there. Intention to live in Ontario. And if you're applying within Ontario, you need to have legal status. And the federal skilled worker program, remember, if we can demonstrate experience based on the federal skilled worker program and the Canadian experience class. But if you're going under federal skilled worker program, you need to meet the 67-point threshold. 67 points threshold is it's based on the scoring factors: education, language, skill, work experience, age and arranged employment, and adaptability in Canada. You will be given points out of 100. This is not the CRS, right? This is the FSW eligibility criteria, right? So most of you, if you are able to get CLB 7 and 6, 7 for French and 6 for English, you will meet this criteria. So you don't need not to worry. So unless your age is extremely high, but still this program operates under the express entry system, and I'm going to see the draws very soon, so you will understand how low these scores are, right? So the first one, work experience can be demonstrated under federal skilled work and Canadian experience class. Education, we talked about it, Canadian batch. Sorry, you don't need Canadian bachelor's, master's, PhD. If you just need to have an equivalent from another country, or he clearly mentioned, or CLB 7 in English, CLB 6 in English, 7 in the French, then the settlement funds and federal skilled worker programs. And again, intention to live in Ontario is a must in these programs. You just have to demonstrate that. Now, so again, we come here, type the keyword here, French. Right. Just observe the scores, right? So this is operated under express entry system. Just observe the scores. So if you come here, right, the score is 290 to 445. So you just need 290 to get an invitation if you are able to demonstrate French language ability. Getting 219 CRS is an easy task. If you're able to get CLB 6 and for English and 7 for French, it's an easy task. So it's like if you have some sort of a background in French, this may be the program for you. So then again, the September 5th draw, 290. So if you have the background in French, and if you have the other issues, like let's say your age is, you are like 45 or so, still you can meet 290 very easily if you can get the language act together. So all these elderly, the like people with the age of above 40, if you have no way out, this can be the stream if you have French language proficiency or some sort of a like the background, so you can still prepare yourself and come to this. Right. So then the other program that we're going to talk is the most one of the very sorted after programs is human capital priorities. So let's go into that. Right. So then we'll come here. Human capital priorities. So a lot of people from British Columbia, they reach out to me then say, I want to go into Ontario human capital priorities and I want to apply as a the accountant. Human capital priorities, the basic draws that they conduct, right? So this is one of the good streams that is available across all the provincial nominee programs. But if we see the draws, they from time to time they pick it: health occupations, tech occupations, other priority occupations. Once we go through this one, I'll take you through each and every draw so you would understand it better, right? So let's see the requirement. Again, the work experience can be proven either under Federal Skilled Worker Program or Canadian Experience Class. Federal Skilled Work at least 1 year continuous, right? So the Canadian Experience Class have at least 1 year cumulative per experience, right? So within last if you receive an invitation, and this is a very important point, right? So if you receive a notification of interest as a part of the target draw, you must demonstrate that at least 6 months of your 1 year eligible works experience in your primary NOC. So that means you can combine, but you need to demonstrate at least 6 months in your primary occupation. So if you are not having like the work experience, still you can combine if you have 6 months in your primary occupation. So the education, similar, Canadian bachelor's, master's, or PhD, or other equivalent, right? So then this nurse exemption is there. Language, then here it's mentioned CLB7 in French or English or French, right? So it can be either. You need not to have both. You can have English or you can have French, but you need CLB7. Settlement funds, intention to live in Ontario, legal status, federal workers skilled worker program. So now the key features: work experience can be demonstrated in federal skilled work and the Canadian experience class. Job offer not required. Education, we talked about it. Language, English or French, CLB7. Settlement funds. So the federal skilled worker 67 requirements still apply, and intention to live in Ontario is there. So now the human capital priorities is the most important like draw as far as I'm concerned. So because that you can get an invitation from variety of occupations. So let's go to our nominee page, right? So again, we'll go up and type the keyword. So what will be the keyword here? Human capital. Just type that. September 12th. Now just focus on these draws, right? So the September 12th, healthcare, 414 to 444. So the federal healthcare draw is now at the category base is at its all-time high, 463. But you only need 414 if you apply under this, right? So the most of the health occupations, almost all of them are covered. Managers in health, veterinarians, dentists, pharmacists, right? Psychologists, right? So the most common ones that you are looking for, 33109, it is covered here. Other assisting occupations. Then 33102, it is covered. So today I got a question asking. So if you're listening, this is for you, right? So I think his name was Venuka. Venuka, you can like go into 33102 under human capital priorities, but you cannot come under in-demand skills, right? So right. So then let's go down, right? So we'll type human capital again. Right. So they had this, okay, human capital, right? July 25th, right? General practitioner and family physician. So these are primarily for doctors, but remember the score was low as 395. So it's a very good stream if you are within those priority occupations. So they invited this exocentric human capital priorities. So the again health 425. So it's significantly lesser than the federal healthcare draw. So if you're not falling under federal healthcare draw, if you're under healthcare, you can secure one under this, right? Then we'll go down. I want to show the tech occupations as well, right? So this one, the tech occupations. Remember, like a couple of years ago, this was one of the very impressive the provincial nominee programs, but now they have slowed it down. The last draw is happened in March 2020, March 21st, 2024. It's nearly like the 9 months ago. But remember, the score was 480, and look who's covered: computer and information system managers, data scientists, cybersecurity specialists, business system specialists, information system specialists, software engineers, web designers, web developers. So with the close, I'm not right to use the word close, but the STEM is no more in priority occupation. So that's not the end of the story. You can still get an invitation under tech draw. I know it happened more than like 9 months ago, but next year you might need one draw, right? So you might need one draw. You don't need I know like two people who got an invitation under this, right? So then they were hesitating going for another second program. I said, if you're going for a second program, go for it. That's fine. But please create a express entry profile and keep it. And they got an invitation, and we withdrew from the college and which they have enrolled, and now they are permanent residents. Life can change so rapidly if you identify the right path for you, right? So in the next program that we're going to talk, the final one is the skilled trade one. Skilled trade, again, is operated under the express entry. So just 1 second, let me go into that. Right. So the skilled trade. So this one, again, people find a lot of issues in this, right? Here, they are talking about the work experience in Ontario, right? Here, we'll read this together. OINP, Ontario Skilled Trades, is an immigration under the OINP. This gives foreign national with keyword Ontario work experience. So that means the competition is less in this stream. So that means if you're able to gain the requisite experience, you're almost guaranteed of the invitation, because the competition is less. You cannot bring Sri Lankan experience. You cannot bring outside province experience. It has to be Ontario experience. So you have to identify these key features and target on those, right? And so work experience, at least 1 year cumulative full-time work experience in the major. They have identified the occupations like this is a trade, like welder, plumber. So the trade occupations like the carpenter, likewise they have identified, and the minor group in 6320, excluding cooks as well. So you just have to demonstrate 1 year experience in Ontario, then you can get an invitation under this. So the key feature here, you need to have a valid certificate or license if your job requires one. So let's say sometimes people come to me and ask, oh, how do I need a valid certificate? Easiest way, go to find in my NOC, I'll show from the scratch. Go to Google, just type find my NOC. Right, so then you come here, we are talking about trades, right? So then your NOC should start from 7, right? So you put 7, right? So else, let's say you're a welder. You copy this and paste it in Google. Then you'll be able to see this respective NOC code, and you go to the employment requirements, right? Employment requirements. Here, trade certification is compulsory in Alberta and available but voluntary in all other provinces. So it's not compulsory in Ontario. But let's say now you want to become an electrician. Right. So the electrician, you will see, again, go to the employment requirements. You can see trade certification for construction electrician is compulsory in Newfoundland and Labrador, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, Quebec, Ontario. So it is compulsory. So likewise, you have to identify under which stream it is compulsory, under which stream it is not compulsory. So right. So then okay. Okay, just 1 second here. We'll go back, we'll type. Choosing the right program. We were discussing about the in-demand skills. So you can come here. Oh, sorry, we were discussing about the skilled trade stream. So we were discussing whether you should have the trade license, then current residency in Ontario and legal status. You must be in Ontario. So remember, this program, if you are in Ontario, it gives you a good opportunity because it's confined to people who are living in Ontario, unlike the other category, right? So then you must be living and holding a work permit if you apply by the time you apply. Then the language requirement is very low, CLB 5 only. So that's another thing that you can target. Again, if you are unable to demonstrate English language or French language proficiency, this program is good option for you. And you have to demonstrate settlement funds since this is not a job offer based, right? So so we'll see the key features. Work experience. It gives foreign nationals Ontario work experience. Key feature: Ontario work experience is required. Education not identified as a requirement. So they are not identifying education as a requirement. So it's, if you go to the web page, education is not there. If you do not have any education whatsoever, let's say you have only A levels, that's fine. It's not a requirement for this skilled trade stream. Then the valid certificate, if your profession requires, you will need it. CLB 5 is language, settlement funds, you have to prove it. So then the current residence in Ontario and legal status in Ontario is important. So that if you have that, that can work in your favor because that will make the others who does not have the Ontario residence from applying for this. So that will prevent them from applying. So that is where your opportunity lies, right? So then intention living in Ontario is there. So again, we'll check the draws. So this one, we type skilled here. Express entry, skilled trade. August 17, the score is just 405 to 435. So if you're like, again, if age is an issue for you, if the education is an issue for you, if the language is a problem for you, still you can get an invitation under express entry if you apply under this rate. So 405, I know that can be easily achieved if you have the requisite score. Even if you're closing on 40, 45, that's totally fine. If you have the requisite education, you can still come under this. As requisite the score, you can still come under this. So you just need a skilled job. So let's evaluate few other rows as well, right? So October 7th, the employer, this one, okay, this is the employer job offer one. Again, we'll type skilled trade, right? Skilled trade, September 10th, that's for international students. So we are talking about the express entry. Again, August 22nd, right? So that's the 400 to 435, right? So then we go down. Express entry, July 11th, skilled trades, 408 to 435. So you'll see all these occupations. So if you see these occupations, like these are not highly skilled per se, right? So tool and die makers, sheet metal workers, boil makers, iron workers, plumber is like certified, so insulators, bricklayers, right? So the tile setters, like you can still roofers, it's still like if you are unable to come under the federal system, these provincial options will be the best option for you if you can demonstrate your like the trade skills, right? For an instance, to be a bricklayer, you need not to be highly professional one. You just can learn the art within 2 to 3 weeks, right? So you just have to get the proper training from the employer. Then that's it. You need so it's not rocket science for sure. So you just have to identify the right path and apply for the right stream. So that's basically the end of our webinar. Hope you had a good session. So I just wanted to finally say it's all about right now, the situation is not in your favor, but it's not the end of the world. You just have to focus and identify your skill set and put that into practice. As we saw, French score is around 290, skilled trades 400s. Even in the express entry system, you get an invitation. Let's say all these not going to work, you go to in-demand skills in Ontario, find like you can be a butcher, you can be a meat packer, you can find an in-demand job, still you get an invitation. You can be a home support worker, still you get an invitation. So it's all about identifying the right path and working for it. So once again, thank you very much. I wish you all the very best. And our dream is to see all of you guys getting Canadian permanent residency status. So we wish you all the best. Thank you for joining, and good night.